We usually think of Greek mythology as a collection of heroic tales, muscular gods, beautiful goddesses, and grand adventures depicted in white marble statues. But if you strip away the poetry and the romance, the true origin of the cosmos is a horror story. It is a timeline written in thick blood, defined by acts of cannibalism, castration, and endless, brutal wars between fathers and sons. Before there was Zeus, there was a tyrant who ate his own children alive to keep his power. Before there was beauty, there was a mutilation that stained the oceans red. This is not the sanitized fairy tale version. This is the brutal, complete timeline of Greek mythology, from the first silent scream of creation to the eternal reign of the Olympians. Before we descend into the darkness, help this channel grow. Subscribe, like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the myths alive. In the beginning, before the concept of time existed, there was no earth, no sky, and no order. There was only chaos. It was not a mess, but a gaping void, a silent, suffocating abyss of nothingness that stretched infinitely in all directions. From this absolute nothingness, life did not gently emerge. It erupted with violence and necessity. The first to manifest was Gaia, the earth. She was the solid foundation, the stage upon which all future tragedies would be played. Deep beneath her formed Tartarus, a pit of suffering so deep that an anvil dropped from the earth would take 9 days to reach its bottom. And then came Eros, the biological drive that would fuel creation. Gaia was alone in the drifting void, longing for a covering. From her own essence, she spun the sky. He was vast, starry, and equal to her in every way. He became the first king of the cosmos, wrapping Gaia in a permanent embrace. Their union was prolific, but it produced horrors. The first children of earth and sky were not beautiful gods. They were monsters. First came the Hecatonchires, 3 giants, each possessing 50 heads and 100 hands, thrashing violently with the strength of earthquakes. Then came the Cyclopes, massive, one-eyed smiths who controlled the power of fire and metal. Uranus, the god of the starry heavens, looked down upon his children with pure disgust. In an act of supreme cruelty, he refused to let them see the light. As soon as they were born, he physically pushed them back into the womb of the earth, burying them alive under tons of rock and soil. Imagine the agony of the earth. Gaia groaned in physical and emotional pain. She could feel her massive children scratching and screaming inside her, trapped in darkness by their own father. For centuries, she endured this torture, her love for Uranus slowly curdling into a cold, hard hatred. She realized that Uranus would never stop. He was a tyrant who cared only for his own vanity. The universe was young, but it was already broken. Gaia knew that if she wanted relief, and if her children were ever to be free, she could not just ask for mercy. She had to take it by force. Gaia was not just a mother, she was the earth itself, capable of creating terrifying things. Deep within a rocky core, she forged a new element, gray adamant, a metal harder than diamond. She shaped it into a massive, jagged sickle, a weapon designed for reaping. But she could not wield it herself. She needed a champion. She went to her other children, the Titans, 12 majestic, immortal beings born after the monsters. They were beautiful and powerful, living in the space between the earth and the sky. She gathered them in secret shadows and showed them the gleaming weapon. She whispered to them that their father was wicked and must be punished. Fear gripped the Titans. Oceanus looked away. Hyperion fell silent. To strike against the sky seemed impossible. Only one Titan stepped forward. Cronus, the youngest and most ambitious. He took the sickle, sealing his fate. The trap was set for nightfall. Cronus hid in the jagged cliffs, gripping the adamant sickle, his knuckles white with anticipation. As the sun set, Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, bringing the night with him. He spread his dark, starry clouds over the earth, desiring his wife, completely unaware that his reign was ending. The moment the sky touched the earth, Cronus burst from his hiding place. With his left hand, he grabbed his father. With his right, he swung the jagged sickle with the force of a tectonic plate shifting. In one swift and furious act, he struck down his father's power, ending an age of tyranny in a single, world-shaking moment. Uranos howled a sound that tore the atmosphere apart and recoiled in agony. For the first time, the sky pulled away from the earth. Retreating to the highest reaches of the cosmos, the severed flesh fell into the ocean, churning the water into a white foam. From this gruesome mixture of blood and sea, beauty emerged. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, rose from the waves. But the blood that hit the earth birthed the Furies, spirits of vengeance. As Uranus fled into the cosmos, he cursed his son, calling him a Titan, the straining one, and prophesied that just as Cronus had overthrown his father, he too would be overthrown by his own child. Cronus was now the king of the cosmos. He released his Titan siblings, and together they ruled over what men would later call the Golden Age. It was a time without law, without war, and without labor. But Cronus had learned nothing from his father's fall. He was a tyrant. Just like Uranus, he betrayed Gaia by refusing to release the monsters from their prison, fearing their power. He locked them deeper into Tartarus, ensuring his rule was unchallenged. He took his sister Rhea as his queen. But the prophecy of Uranus consumed him. It rotted his mind with paranoia. He looked at Rhea not with love, but with suspicion. Every time she became pregnant, Cronus saw not a child, but a rival who would steal his throne. He decided to take no chances. He would not imprison his children in the earth, like his father did. He would make sure they never saw the light of day at all. He would become their living tomb. The horror began with the birth of their first child. Rhea presented the baby to Cronus, hoping to soften his heart. But Cronus did not cradle her. He opened his massive jaws and swallowed her whole. He imprisoned them not in the earth, but in his own stomach. Then came Demeter, swallowed. Then Hera, swallowed. Then Hades, swallowed. Then Poseidon, swallowed. One by one, the future gods were eaten alive by their own father. They were immortal, so they did not die. They lived, trapped in the darkness of his gut, growing in anger and power. Rhea watched in horror as her husband became a monster, destroying their family to protect his throne. She was pregnant with her sixth child. She knew she could not let this one die. She was desperate. She fled to the island of Crete, deep into a hidden cave on Mount Ida, far from Cronus's watchful eyes. In the damp silence of the cave, Rhea gave birth to a son. She named him Zeus. She entrusted the baby to the care of nymphs and the Caretes warriors, who would clash their shields together and shout whenever the baby cried, masking the sound from Cronus's ears high on Mount Othrys. But she had to return to her husband. She could not return empty-handed. Rhea took a heavy stone from the earth and wrapped it in layers of swaddling clothes. She presented the bundle to Cronus, feigning tears. Cronus, blinded by his fear and greed, did not even check the child. He snatched the bundle and swallowed the stone in one gulp, believing his throne was finally safe. He sat on his throne, satisfied, unaware that miles away, the true king was growing up, getting stronger, drinking the milk of a divine goat, and planning a war that would shatter the world. Based Zeus grew into a powerful young god. He knew he could not defeat the Titans alone. He needed his siblings. He disguised himself as a cupbearer in his father's palace, infiltrating the heart of the enemy. He enlisted the help of Metis, the Titaness of wisdom, who brewed a potent mixture of mustard and wine, a violent emetic designed to purge the stomach. Zeus handed the poisoned chalice to Cronus. The Titan king drank deeply. Moments later, he doubled over in agony. The potion worked instantly. First, he vomited up the stone. Then, in reverse order, he regurgitated his swallowed children, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. They emerged fully grown, unharmed, and burning with hatred. They looked at Zeus and recognized him as their leader. Cronus roared for his Titan allies. The family feud had escalated into a total war. The Titanomachy had begun. For 10 years, the cosmos was torn apart. The Titans fought from Mount Othrys, the Olympians from Mount Olympus. The earth shattered, the skies burned, but the war was a stalemate. The Titans were simply too strong. Zeus realized that to defeat the old order, he had to embrace what his father and grandfather had feared. He descended into the depths of Tartarus. There, he found the forgotten prisoners, the Hecatanchires, and the Cyclope. He broke their chains and offered them freedom in exchange for their help. Grateful, the Cyclopes used their mastery of the forge to craft the ultimate weapons. For Hades, they forged the helm of darkness and visibility. For Poseidon, the trident, the power of the seas. And for Zeus, the master bold condensed lightning. With these weapons, the tide turned. Hades infiltrated the Titan camp unseen. Poseidon shook the earth beneath their feet, and Zeus rained down lightning. The Hecatanchires joined the fray, throwing 300 boulders at once. Overwhelmed and outgunned, Cronus fell. The Titans were cast into Tartarus, imprisoned in the very darkness they had forced upon others. The war was won, but the world was empty and chaotic. The three brothers Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots to divide the cosmos. Zeus took the sky, becoming the king of gods. Poseidon took the sea. Hades was left with the dark, silent underworld. The earth was left as common ground. To fill the earth, Zeus tasked the Titan Prometheus to create mortals. Prometheus molded men from clay, but he saw they were weak, naked, and freezing in the cold nights. He loved his creation more than he feared Zeus. Defying the king of gods, Prometheus climbed Olympus, lit a torch from the sun chariot, and brought fire down to humanity. With fire, civilization was born. Humans could cook, forge tools, and survive. But Zeus was furious. Fire belonged to the gods. He saw this as a betrayal that blurred the line between divinity and mortality. Zeus's punishment was swift and eternal. He chained Prometheus to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains, where a giant eagle would eat his regenerating liver every single day forever. But Zeus wanted to punish humanity as well. He ordered the creation of the first woman, Pandora. He gave her a jar Nothin, mistranslated as a box, and told her never to open it. But curiosity, instilled in her by the gods, won out. She opened the lid, releasing sickness, death, jealousy, and greed into the world. Only hope remained trapped inside when she closed it. The timeline was set from the void of chaos to the tyranny of Cronus, and finally, the reign of Olympus. The gods would rule for millennia, petty and powerful, shaping human history through myths of heroes and monsters. The cycle of violence had stabilized into an order that would last until the end of belief. This is the bloody, tragic, and magnificent history of Greek mythology. And so, the cosmic order was established, from the silent, screaming void of chaos to the brutal castration of Uranus, the cannibalistic tyranny of Cronus, and, finally, the lightning-forged reign of Zeus. The cycle of violence that had plagued the universe for eons finally stabilized. The Olympians would go on to rule for millennia. They would build palaces of gold and marble high above the clouds. They would quarrel, love, and scheme, but they would never again be overthrown. But their story does not end here. In fact, it is just beginning. With the gods secure on their thrones and humanity scattered across the earth, a new era was about to dawn. Not the age of gods, but the age of heroes. An era where the sons and daughters of these gods, Hercules, Perseus, Achilles, and Helen, would walk the earth. An era defined not by creation, but by legendary quests, tragic flaws, and the greatest war history would ever know. The Trojan War, but that is a story for another time. This has been the complete dark history of the Greek gods. If you've survived this journey from the void to Olympus, you are part of the mythology verse now. If you want to see us cover the age of heroes next, from the labors of Hercules to the fall of Troy, sure you are subscribed and have the bell notification turned on. Click the like button if you learned something new today. And tell me in the comments, which Greek god do you think was actually the most evil? Cronus or Zeus? I will see you in the next myth.